Hello. Welcome to day 2 of the 31 days of Halloween. 31 scary/spooky stories in 31 days. Unlike yesterday, where the breakdown for the 31 days of Halloween was given, that's not needed. So without further ado, here's story number 2. Also, just to be transparent, these 31 stories in 31 days are only possible because of AI, with my human involvement overseeing it.
The Haunting of Ward 13. Chapter 1, The Dare. A relentless autumn wind howled through the town of Ravensbrook, rattling windows and scattering leaves like forgotten memories. The heart of many whispered tales was St. Mary's Hospital, a sprawling relic from another era, now choked by nature and time. Tales of strange lights, haunting melodies, and most chillingly, of teenagers who ventured close and were never seen again. In the candlelit attic of Jenna's century-old house, 4 friends, Jenna, Leo, Mia, and Dave, gathered around an ornate Ouija board, its edges worn and symbols faded. The flickering candles cast long, dancing shadows on the walls, giving life to the ancient artifacts around them.
"Let's ask it about St. Mary's,"
Mia suggested, her voice a mere whisper. The planchette started to move, guided by unseen hands, DARE. Dave, always the skeptic, scoffed.
"Come on, who's moving it?"
"Let's find out if the stories are true,"
Jenna proposed with a mischievous glint in her eyes.
"We go to St. Mary's tonight. Halloween night."
The thought was met with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Leo hesitated.
"I've heard things about Ward 13.
Mia, clutching her grandmother's pendant, added.
"My grandmother disappeared near there when she was our age. They never found her."
But the dare was set, and as midnight approached, they found themselves outside St. Mary's imposing entrance. The hospital's facade was a mix of Gothic architecture, now decaying, and a more recent addition, graffiti of warning messages and warding symbols. The wind seemed to whisper cautionary tales as it blew through broken windows. With a deep breath, they entered. The atmosphere was heavy, a weight of countless untold stories and events pressing down on them. Dust motes danced in their flashlight beams, revealing old reception areas, long-abandoned wheelchairs, and scattered patient records. As they ventured deeper, the humming began, a tuneless, ghostly hum that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Leo, with a shaky voice, cracked a joke trying to lift the mood, but it fell flat. Every sound, every creak seemed magnified in the vast emptiness. Suddenly, Leo's flashlight beam froze on the reception desk, where words appeared in the thick dust.
"Leave or join us."
The 4 exchanged uneasy glances, but their curiosity was too piqued to turn back now. The night was still young, and the mysteries of St. Mary's Hospital awaited. Chapter 2, Vanishing Acts. The haunting words on the reception desk loomed in their minds, but Jenna, trying to rally the group, said,
"It's probably some joke from other kids who were here before us."
The hospital was a sprawling labyrinth of corridors, rooms, and forgotten memories. Dimly illuminated signs pointed towards various departments. Leo, ever the cautious one, suggested they leave markings on the walls to help them find their way back. They journeyed on, their flashlights occasionally illuminating tattered curtains, surgical tools corroded by time, and closed-off rooms that were just begging to be explored. But it was Mia's discovery that gripped them all in an iron vice of dread. A glint from her grandmother's pendant caught her eye as it lay atop a rusting metal cart, surrounded by dusty old medical journals.
This was with her when she disappeared."
Mia stammered, holding it up, her eyes wide with shock. The chain had been broken, as if ripped off in haste. The realization that they weren't alone sank in when Jenna noticed something even more unsettling, fresh footprints leading toward the sinister Ward 13. As if on cue, the humming, now louder and more frantic, beckoned them towards the ward's entrance. Pushing aside the fear threatening to strangle them, the group decided to split. Jenna and Leo would search for any signs of recent activity or other exits, while Mia, feeling a personal connection to the mysteries, chose to explore Ward 13 with Dave by her side. Inside Ward 13, time seemed to stand still. The room was eerily pristine compared to the rest of the hospital. The neatly made beds were out of place, like a scene perfectly preserved from decades ago. The operating table in the center bore chilling signs of recent use. The rusty surgical kit laid open, fresh blood staining some of the instruments. Beside it was a Polaroid photo of the 4 friends taken outside the hospital earlier that night. Who had taken it? The photo bore a message on the back.
4. Become 1.
Outside Ward 13, Jenna and Leo stumbled upon more mysteries. A room that looked like it once served as the personal quarters for the nurses was left in haste, with personal items scattered around. But amongst old perfumes, diaries, and trinkets, they found objects that unmistakably belonged to the townsfolk. A wallet, a watch, and most shockingly, Jenna's favorite bracelet, which she had lost last summer. Reuniting outside the ward, the friends shared their grim discoveries. Panic began to set in. The humming was now a sorrowful melody, coming from all directions. The dark corridors seemed to twist and stretch, leading them back to Ward 13 again and again. Dave, trying to dial out on his phone, found there was no signal.
We need to get out, now!
He exclaimed. But as the reality of their situation set in, the hospital lights flickered to life, and a chilling laughter echoed, sealing their fate in an endless game of hide and seek. Chapter 3, Echoes from the Shadows. The restored lighting revealed faded pastel walls, which once must have exuded a sense of comfort. Now, they stood as mocking reminders of the hospital's sinister past. Ward 13's door slowly creaked open by itself, revealing the once immaculate room now thrown into chaos. The beds were overturned, and the operating table bore new, unsettling tools. Dave grabbed Jenna's arm, pointing to the shadows at the far end of the room.
Look!
Outlined in the dim light were the figures of nurses. Their uniforms were old-fashioned, starched, and white, but their faces were hollow, with eyes that were nothing more than voids. Stepping forward, their spectral forms glided effortlessly. Mia took a step back, clutching her grandmother's pendant tightly, as one particularly familiar figure approached. It had the same delicate features as her grandmother, but distorted, as if time and anguish had taken their toll.
Mia.
The apparition whispered, her voice echoing from a distant memory. Mia was rooted to the spot, tears streaming down her face.
Grandma?
Jenna, trying to regain some semblance of control, demanded.
What do you want from us?
Another nurse, her face obscured by a veil, responded.
To be free. But freedom has its price.
Leo, his voice quivering, asked.
What happened here?
The specters shared their sorrowful tale through haunting visions. The teenagers saw patients brought in against their will, subjected to horrifying experiments in the pursuit of immortality. The nurses had been the key players, promising them eternal life, but instead binding their souls to Ward 13 for eternity.
We were betrayed.
The veiled nurse whispered, her voice filled with anguish. The head of the hospital had promised them power and eternal life, but in reality, he sought to harness their souls for his dark rituals.
We tried to save them, the innocent ones.
Mia's grandmother's spirit added.
But we too were trapped.
Their salvation was tied to a ritual, one that required fresh souls. Souls like Jenna, Leo, Mia, and Dave. Souls that entered the hospital willingly.
We are bound to this fate.
The head nurse declared.
The cycle must continue.
Panic surged through the group. The previously open door of Ward 13 now slammed shut, sealing their fate. They were the next subjects, and escape was their only hope. With the corridor twisting and turning in impossible ways, each path they took led them right back to the beginning. But amidst the chaos and despair, Dave noticed something: the echo of their footsteps seemed to guide them. Following this newfound lead, they found themselves in a decrepit library filled with old tomes and books detailing rituals and wards against evil.
We might have a way out,
Dave murmured, flipping through an ancient manuscript. The solution, however, required unity, courage, and a confrontation with the dark heart of St. Mary's Hospital itself. Chapter 4: The Chilling Revelation. The dusty air of the library seemed to grow colder, pressing down on the group as Dave scanned the ancient text. He found a ritual that might counteract the binding magic that held the spirits of the hospital captive, and, by extension, them.
Listen!
Dave began, reading aloud.
When the spirits are bound by betrayal, only a truth revealed and a sacrifice made can sever the chains.
Jenna's voice shook.
What sacrifice?
Before Dave could answer, the familiar eerie humming echoed once more, growing louder. The ghostly procession of nurses converged on the library, led by Mia's grandmother. But behind them, a more terrifying figure emerged, the spectral visage of the hospital's head doctor, his face contorted in a malevolent sneer.
You think a mere book can save you?
He hissed, his voice echoing with malice.
I've seen countless souls like yours attempt to break the cycle, and all have failed.
The friends formed a tight circle, determined to face their fate together. They began reciting the ritual from the book, their voices harmonizing, growing stronger and louder, drowning out the mournful hum. But as the chant reached its peak, the head doctor lunged at Mia, gripping the pendant, her only connection to her grandmother. As it shattered, a blinding light engulfed the room. When the light faded, the friends found themselves outside St. Mary's Hospital, the morning sun casting long shadows. For a brief moment, relief washed over them. But as they looked around, they realized something was terribly wrong. The town was unrecognizable. Buildings were decayed and overgrown, streets deserted, and their own homes stood abandoned, windows boarded and roofs caved in. In the town center, a monument bore their names with an inscription.
The brave souls lost to St. Mary's, 2023.
Desperate, Jenna ran to her home, with the others following suit. Inside, layers of dust covered every surface, and family photographs showcased generations they didn't recognize. On the mantel, a newspaper clipping from decades ago reported their mysterious disappearance on Halloween night, forever linking them to the legends of St. Mary's Hospital. Outside, the distant sound of a clock tower marked the passing time, its chimes echoing the cold reality: they had been trapped inside the hospital not for a night, but for decades. They had escaped one prison, only to find themselves trapped in another, forever out of time, forever apart from their loved ones. And as the sun set on this eerie new world, St. Mary's Hospital stood tall in the distance, its windows dark except for one, Ward 13, where a faint light flickered, waiting for the next curious souls to venture near.
See you tomorrow for day 3 of the 31 days of Halloween scary/spooky stories.